Welcome everyone to our design review board meeting for, what's today, Wednesday? Thursday. That's, I bet,
21st.
I'm way behind today. So we'll call the meeting to order. Declarations of conflict of interest. I see none, thank you. Approval of the agenda, can I have a motion there? Moved by Kenny, seconded by Councillor Yankoff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Adoption of the minutes.
Moved.
Moved by the Mayor Brown, seconded by, who seconded? Kenny did, okay, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes?
None.
No business arising from the minutes, we're sailing right along. Reports, 136 Great George Street. Laura, you have the floor, thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is a request by Dow's Menswear for design approval for a two-story multi-use building consisting of 4 residential dwelling units on the top floor and approximately 3,448 square feet of retail space on the ground floor and basement level. As per the bylaw, section 7.1, new buildings within the 500 lot area are required to undergo design review process, and that's to ensure that the architecture and design of the proposed development within the 500 lot area maintains a higher quality of design, and it's constructed with a consistent type and quality of materials. So the subject property, it's zoned downtown core, and it's within the 500 lot area, and it is 0.07 of an acre. There's approximately 35.6 feet of street frontage and 89.2 feet of lot depth. So the depth of the lot going back this way. The surrounding neighborhood is downtown core to the north, east, and west, and Park Cultural Zone to the south. So you're familiar with Province House and the Confederation one here, located on this block just down here. So it's also located within an established streetscape among 2-story buildings. Commercial uses are mainly located on the block, and there's some residential uses above these buildings. And as I stated earlier, that it's located near one of our most historic landmarks, which is Province House, the George Coles Building, Confederation Center, and right down in the heart of our downtown. So the actual building, it just tucks right in nicely right here amongst all of the existing buildings on the street. So on September 15th, the applicant submitted their design package, and the proposal went to Peter Fellows, and Peter is a licensed architect in New Brunswick, and he is on our design roster as an independent design reviewer. So Mr. Fellows submitted his formal review for the project on October 13th, and the main points that he listed in his report were: the guiding principles of the 500 lot area goes on to suggest that new developments should be held to a higher design standards with bonus rewards for those that demonstrate these standards. This proposal demonstrates a grasp of quality materials and has developed a solid contemporary design. He also stated that after review of Section 7 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, this project adheres to virtually the entire section. He said it ticks all the right boxes, and there's only 2 very minor concerns. So the minor concerns, the upper windows are shown in plan as patio sliders, which are frowned on, but using in-swing garden doors instead, he felt would resolve that issue. And he also felt that the storefront windows should be divided vertically into 4 lights rather than 3. So they have division of 3 here, and he just felt that that should be broken down further into 4. He did question the horizontal material on the building. It wasn't clear if it was wood or metal with concealed fasteners, and either or he said was fine. Jen McCool from Sable Arc Studios is here, and she can answer some more questions, but she did indicate that the material would be wood. So just after my report, if you want to ask her a few questions, you can do so. So, he also indicated, as no roof plan was indicated, we believe it either to be flat or very low pitch. The skylights either way probably comply with bylaw 7.74, and we are not sure if the horizontal material is wood. It is a nice foil to the mixed red brick. Also, the fun window in the stairwell is a nice touch of whimsy. So he was referring to this window right here. So, the design reviewer addressed all 10 guiding principles of the 500 lot area. Those guiding principles were in the actual study that was done a number of years ago for the 500 lot, and that's what the bylaw is actually based off of, section 7 of the bylaw. And overall, he felt that the infill project adhered to all 10 of those principles, and that was outlined in the 500 lot standards. So Mr. Fellows also indicated that a variance would be required for cash in lieu of parking. And staff would note that a variance is not required for cash in lieu of parking applications. However, that application would be referred to planning board for a recommendation to council and subsequent approval from council on cash in lieu of parking. So it would be approximately, we had done a calculation, Mr. Fellows thought it would be 6 spaces that would be required. But basically, based on what the basement is used for, we may require 7 spaces for cash in lieu, but we would determine that later when the use is determined for the basement. So if it's storage, it would probably be 6 spaces, and if it's actual retail space, then it would be an additional space. And staff would support cash in lieu of parking for this location because the bylaw states that cash in lieu of parking spaces may be accepted for new development or for an addition to an existing building in the 500 lot area in any situation where adequate parking cannot be provided or is unfeasible. So given that this project is located along an already established streetscape, there isn't availability for parking on the site, so we would support cash in lieu. Staff feels that the application, it's met all the requirements of the zoning and development bylaw and the 500 lot standards, and we are in agreement with Mr. Fellows' report with considering the 2 recommendations that he suggested in the report. So we are recommending for approval, and if you would like to ask Jen some more questions, she's right here.
Thank you very much, Laurel. Yeah, sure, if any questions, Councillor Yanko.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your report. Just to clarify, today, the only thing we aren't approving cash in lieu for parking.
No.
So
That has to
today-
go to planning board.
Right, so today, just to clarify, the only thing that we are giving the green light on
It's the
is the
design.
design review.
Yeah.
I just don't want to confuse anyone out there in the public that's
Yeah.
listening.
No.
That's putting the cart before the horse. That's all we're doing today is design.
Approval.
Yeah, we just wanted to mention that because it was included in his report, so that this board is aware, and then it will have to go to planning board for approval. An application for cash in lieu will have to go to the board, so.
I would have to say I really like the design, and I love the roof lines, you know, they blend in, the brick, and it's going to add excitement to the street. I'm just wondering about the horizontal wood, why they just didn't carry all brick on the front elevation.
So you're wondering why
Yeah.
wood is present?
Yeah, the wood, horizontal wood, that's my
Right.
only question.
Right, so I think one main reason for that was to break up the facade a little bit,
Mhm.
so that it reads less as one large face and more as a few. And then also, when considering its neighbors, you have obviously the brick to this side and the other side is more of a wood slat. So that was, the intention was to really reference the neighbors and have those materials come together.
Good design.
Any other questions?
And it looks like, Chair, that this, is that same wood facade around the doorway as well?
Oh, down here?
Yeah,
Yes, it
so
sits on
that's
the
the
back
same
wall.
wood facade is
Yes.
on, that ties the whole,
Correct, yeah.
thank you.
So is it clapboard siding to match where beams? Is it beams? Is that what it's called? Used to be the garbage.
Yeah.
So it's the same like similar, or is it different?
I think it would, more of a modern flush version,
Yes.
whereas that one's
Yeah.
more historic
Okay.
siding, but material reference, but slightly different.
Good, thank you.
I didn't get your name, Jen.
Yes.
I just want to say that I am blown away with the quality of your presentation. A lot of times when we're trying to visualize what the project is actually going to look like, it's very hard to grasp it. Your illustrations, the design, and presentation, I think, are of the highest quality, and I compliment you on that. And it makes our job as reviewers much easier. And I also think that Peter Fellow's comments are also very articulate,
Yeah.
clear,
Done a good job.
communicate the reason for the review. So I think if we could use both the design reviewer's critique and the presentation architecturally as models to help in terms of future guidance, top marks.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. Good, thank you very much for your comments.
And if I could just add.
Yes, you may.
Mr. Councilor McLeod, under the lot 500 guiding principles, I like this approach is in keeping with best practices of heritage conservation, which strongly discourage historic mimicry. I like that because we do have some councillors that believe that we should try to recreate what's historically down here, but if you go to Quebec City, if you go to Montreal, they're using new designs. They're not mimicking the past, they're trying to combine the past with the future. And you know what? Kudos to Mr. George Dow for a great project, and I think this will just add to that block, because there are wood buildings and there are brick buildings. Great combination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Any other questions, concerns for either?
I'll move
the two ladies? So we have a motion on the floor to accept staff's recommendations. Seconded, Alex.
Just for clarity, for when we get back to them, it's to make the approval with the recommendations of Mr. Fellows?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just for clarity,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, and there's nobody against. So that concludes that report. Thank you very much for coming in, Jen. Appreciate it. And again, thanks for all the hard work and makes our, like what's been stated.
Great job.
Yeah, great job all together.
Thank you very
And
much.
thanks, Laura, for you as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Introduction of new business. I believe there is one item. Concerns are, maybe Alana, you want to introduce that? The lighting, you're not, okay. Alex, maybe I'll get you to introduce it.
So look, I know that this was a little bit last minute. I've been dealing with one of the other departments who've asked me for whether we have an opinion, meaning this group, whether it's the Heritage Board or the Design Review Board, in regard to an urban design project in the downtown, which is circulating, and it's dealt with by the Public Works Department. So it's not this committee it's not their decision, so there's no decisions today. But I thought, so they were asking me, do you and your bylaws, do you have any concern? And my comment was, it kind of falls outside of what we traditionally have been doing on this board. But I thought it would be good to just brief the Design Review Committee in regard to whether it's this project or other projects. Other committees, maybe Public Works or any other committee of the city, may wish to send something to this group and just ask for some input. So again, there's no decisions on this today, it's just to brief people. If you did have any concerns, you can just send me an email. I'll make sure that it makes its way to the Public Works Department, who will make that determination. Shallon is here to give the presentation. She's been working on it, so that's where it is. Thank you.
Welcome to Design Review, Sharon.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so
Challenge, sorry.
any project in the future like this, they have to come back to design review? Is that what we're saying?
Well-
All I'm indicating is, I don't think we really contemplated this when we got into set up the whole design review process.
Right.
The design review process is to deal with property, private or public property, but not the public realm. This is a fairly significant property. It's in the public realm, but it is dealt with by the public realm, and the city is historically been maintained by the Public Works, but it doesn't hurt that if there's any commentary or whatever.
In the direction that this project
This
is,
was a project, initiated by Discover Charlottetown.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, yeah, yeah.
So there's
Which is
been,
its own organization outside of the city.
right,
Right.
And the city's contribution was
Is-
going to be just,
in kind of,
Services.
of installing and taking down and putting up new light. But the issue now, there's some other things have come into play, and Shannon will explain that.
I think it's a great opportunity to have that conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think, you
You're just
know,
looking for an opinion.
Well, just
Yeah.
some commentary, there's nothing formal here today, but I guess I'm just putting it on the table. If I'm asked my opinion by another department on something that involves the public realm, because what we're trying to do is improve the private realm, that's really what this board is. The two should be talking. It could be the Arts Advisory Committee, could deal with these in the future, but I just thought it was appropriate that somebody be able to input some commentary, because I can't give my own personal commentary
Yeah.
to Public Works, so we just thought.
Maybe the opportunity here is to look at if there's going to be more things like this come up, the city has to have a policy. in
Sure,
place.
perfect, yeah.
and a fine example would be, in this particular case, that we might not be attaching to buildings, but, you know, the next project could be where we're attaching to heritage buildings, so it would be important that design review had some say in that one. So it's important that we kind of just have communication here today and to try and get it out to the other, which I'll do at the council meeting, but as part of the report, I'll just, you know, explain that other departments should include us in some of their, and when it comes to heritage and streetscapes
And
and
perhaps public opinion
and
as well.
public opinion as well.
Residents of
Yeah.
Charlottetown.
So just in a point of order, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
yes, sir.
We've already approved this through council.
Yes.
So you're just going back to say, going forward, we should be more.
Well, I'm actually coming back with a slight change. The concept hasn't changed, but I don't think it was before this board.
No, it never did come here.
Yeah.
Big
So I sort of touched base, I'll give you a little bit of history. So we did go through the urban beautification, is it urban beautification committee?
It's Public Works Beautification.
Public Works Beautification Committee, and it got approved, and it did go to council and get approved. So I guess since then, we've been sort of working through the details, and I touched base with Laurel a couple weeks ago just to say, this is sort of the strategy we're thinking about to make this project happen. It is a bit of a change from what we presented. What channels do we sort of have to go back through to make sure this is okay with everyone? So that's basically where we are now, and then, I don't know if that prompted this, Alex, but.
It's exactly what prompted
Okay.
it, so.
But maybe it should have gone through this to begin with, but anyways, here we are. So unfortunately, sorry, I didn't know about this meeting till today, so I didn't have time to like re-render anything, but just for context, I thought I would show the presentation that we showed originally. So the general concept is pretty simple. It is to have sort of change out infrastructure on Kent Street, sort of from Craft Beer Corner. It was suggested all the way to Prince Street. So basically one block. And what you're seeing here is lights, but the idea is that each season that could be changed out for something different. So maybe at Christmas it's wreaths, or that's just an example. So that's just kind of showing that.
I think it's the bottom here, I'll show. Move forward.
It was moved earlier. Okay, just do it this way. So that was just some examples of things that we were thinking about hanging there. So this is what was presented last time, and at that meeting it was discussed that we would actually go one more bay, so all the way to Prince Street, and that's just showing the kind of scope of the lights. So we were talking about sort of every 6 feet there would be a strand that you could suspend things from.
Sharon,
Yeah.
could I ask?
Yeah.
So this will incorporate the facade of Fitzroy Parkade, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you know that this design review passed a resolution to do something with
Yes.
the facade, and we're still waiting for that?
Yes.
Will that help accelerate?
Well,
Speed it up.
I'm going to skip to the end
Okay.
because I think
That's
this
the
is where
question.
the sort of strategy changed a bit.
Yes.
So this is sort of the new drawing, which is not a pretty rendering, but it does show the strategy. So basically, what happened since the last meeting, I went with Sheldon Tweel, our structural engineer. We visited each building. We assessed the structure of each building, how we were going to connect to each building. We talked to each building owner. I also met with the fire inspector to talk about any concerns that they had with this and how we should move forward. We also had several meetings with the DJM building about their construction, which is happening for 4 to 5 years on the front of their building. So they had a lot of concerns about, you know, would we have to take this whole thing down for sort of 4 years so they could do their construction? So where we sort of landed with this is that rather than attaching to each individual building, that it would make sense to put sort of a grid of structure along Kent Street that we could then fasten these to. And that it's similar to Argyle Street in Halifax. If anyone has walked down there, they have similar infrastructure. And I have a whole sort of list of pros of doing this, but I think the biggest things were the structural engineer's concerns with wind loads, unpredictable conditions in some of the buildings that have quite old brick facades. And the other thing was the fire inspector. He really didn't see how they could make that work with having to sort of detach each strand in an emergency. So we kind of talked about doing it in a grid system so that if the fire department did have an emergency, they could just unclip one thing and the whole grid would come down rather than having to detach a bunch of different clips. So conceptually, it's not much different, but like you'll see here, so basically this is showing the existing lampposts that are on the street. So we're saying we'd be in line with those lampposts kind of right at the edge of the sidewalk on the parking spots. And working with Sheldon, we're kind of roughly 40 feet between each column. So there'd be 2 columns between each lamppost all the way along. And then these are kind of the strands of lights, same spacing, 6 feet. And I think what I also like about this idea is that you don't have to have the whole street done all the time. If you don't want to, you can take certain grids down. Like I just showed this because DJM, when they're doing their construction, grid D and E could come down for even the duration of their construction and then go back up. I think the other opportunity here is that you have sort of permanent infrastructure that you can use for banners or, you know, kind of future development of the street, other than just this project. So that's basically as far as we got. I didn't want to go too much further with this before I brought it back to the city to say, is this even okay that we're going to put columns in the street? You know, we're going to have to dig up the asphalt and repair it back to existing condition. So there's obviously some disruption for that, and obviously it does change the look of what we're proposing.
And change the cost.
It changes the cost, but I think at the end of the day, it probably doesn't amount to too much because we would have had to go into each building, bolt through their structure, repair their structure on the inside. Labor-wise, it's actually a lot less work. And we have a lot less people to deal with. It's really negotiating with you guys rather than each individual building owner, and it kind of takes the liability out of ruining anyone's building or having leaks in anyone's building. It does alleviate a lot of fears there. So I'm certainly a lot more comfortable with this solution after exploring sort of all the issues. And I think the other thing I wanted to bring up was when I did talk to the fire inspector, he had indicated that their height maximum is 13'6", and he thought that 15 feet would be plenty of height to have these. And kind of what was discussed here was 18 feet. Now we can still do that, but the higher we go, the bigger our footings need to be. So I would prefer to go as low as possible and keep the infrastructure small and light and keep the street looking as close as it is to what it is now. So I guess we just want some confirmation from, I assume that will come from Scott Adams maybe, on what the final height does need to be.
Thank you very much. Public Works has been notified, and at our next meeting we'll be discussing it.
Yeah.
I do know 18 feet would be probably the best, because sometimes when in Public Works, when the snow blowers break down, we have to use the payloader, and they have to go up pretty high before they dump the snow down into the truck. So there will be some issues there as far as trying to go lower.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a public works discussion.
Yeah, for
and,
sure, that can be
I think
negotiated
it's great
for
that
sure.
we, that this committee got to see what's going on
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, and go forward from there. But I think it's, you know, we could be a lot more involved the next time where we might be against buildings and heritage properties and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's good that it's got introduced here, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a process, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not something
Yeah.
that I think anyone probably in Charlottetown has ever done. And I think once we started getting into the details, we just realized that that was going to be a
Sure.
very difficult thing to do and maintain over time, so.
Yeah. No, it does make sense, for sure. Yes.
And
Councillor
Chair,
Nicole.
I would think that given the amount of changes, not only will it go back to.
It's gotta go to 3 or 4
It's gotta go
committees.
back to council,
Water, sewer, it's
That's
gotta go to water, sewer,
There's a
public
lot.
works, planning.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
because it opens up a whole other realm of, okay, well,
Yeah.
we're looking at improving lighting in one particular area of the downtown core, and we still have streets that have old-fashioned lampposts sitting beside
Yeah.
crooked lampposts. That,
Mhm.
I mean, maybe we need a long-term plan
Yeah.
and a vision. I mean,
Yeah, and I think this really came, you know, not so much from the city, but as you say, DCI, but it's a way of promoting the downtown is what the whole
what's the
idea.
DCI, just to clarify?
Sorry,
Discover Charlotte.
Discover Charlotte, sorry, I keep confusing them too. You know, to promote the city of Charlotte and make it more appetizing, and it certainly will eventually. But like I say, this has to go back to the drawing board, to all the other committees again. So this was just for information purposes only, and so that, you know, it could come back to us, I'm sure, and we'll have a better idea of what's going on.
So can I ask
You sure
Shaylin, I've been down Argyle, I'm sure many of us have been down Argyle. Are they up 15 feet, 18 feet, do you know that?
I honestly don't know.
And,
Yeah.
you know, Argyle is predominantly a pedestrian,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
pedestrian.
Headway or street.
Pedway or pedestrian way, and it's, or pedway, this is, Kent Street is mostly vehiculars. It's always vehicles going down, parking
Yeah.
in front of, so
Yeah,
it
and-
changes the whole scope, as you've already said.
yeah.
And to add a post every 20 feet, did you say, or every 40 feet?
40
feet,
feet, yeah.
That's a bigger project,
Yeah.
much bigger.
Oh, it changes it.
It is,
drastically.
yeah.
Just think about, like, I'm trying to visualize the streetscape when you start adding in,
Because we already have poles, now we're gonna have poles in the middle of them.
right, I mean,
Mhm.
But, you know, in water sewer, we gotta, you know, there's a whole, what's underneath, where the poles are gonna be. There's a
Yeah,
lot of-
we'd have to look,
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a service plan and we did kind of look
Yeah.
at that, but that would certainly have to
Yeah,
be
certainly.
considered. And no, I agree, it is a much bigger
Yeah.
thing,
It
and
is,
and I agree with Alana's point that, you know, I think this is an opportunity maybe to look at a bigger plan for that street. You know, Argyle is actually amazing if you guys
It
have
is.
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
walk down that street, and if Kent Street's gonna keep moving in that direction, like
Yeah.
maybe there's more that can be done
Yeah.
to better that block, so.
Yeah.
And as you know, they're doing-
long-term planning.
And as you know, they're doing a major renovation to Spring Garden Road.
Yes,
By the library,
Yeah.
connected to the library, and I think they're looking at the same type of headway that they have on Argyle, mostly only for buses,
yeah,
pedestrians, bicycles, electric bicycles. It's
I could see this
it's
being,
much different than what we have in Kent Street.
I would see this fitting really well on Great George Street, the back side. And
yeah.
I think that would be, you know what I mean, where it's,
I think it's a fantastic idea, but how
Yeah.
can you pick that block or that street?
To be honest, I wasn't involved in the choosing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what Heidi talked about a lot was the fact that like Water Street's already celebrated and like there's lots of people
Yeah.
down there, so like let's bring people to a different part of the city.
Mm.
And because Kent Street, I mean, it has become really amazing in the last year with like the Arts Hotel, and they have those gorgeous
Yeah.
doors that open,
Yeah.
and then like there's an Italian restaurant now going
Yeah.
on the corner,
I
so
think it's a great spot.
Yeah.
I wonder what,
it is developing,
what
like,
was it, why that choice?
yeah. And I think because it's such a retail-based street,
It's a
like
hub.
everyone's
It's an
supportive of-
entertaining,
Yeah.
it's an entertaining street.
Exactly.
yeah, that's
It's
what I
like
think.
Great George or Newfoundland.
Yeah,
Oh, I think it should be great if it works, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
But we just have to let it go back to its
And Mr. Chair, the previous chair knows that we did pass a resolution to go with the design review for
And we
the
have to get
facade
that,
down
and
at
we
Pittsburgh.
need-
We're still waiting for that, but that would add a lot to it also.
Yeah.
But Shannon, I really like the idea, it's just, when you compare it to
Yeah.
Argyle and potentially Spring Garden Road, it's a lot of differences, it's apples and oranges, this is a major, there's a major department, it's a national department of
Yeah.
Veterans Affairs, it's the only national department outside of Ottawa. I thought when we did go with this plan, all the property owners were on side to tie into their buildings.
They are on side.
But
To
they
be
just-
honest, this did not come from the building owners. This came from me and the engineers and our expertise and uncomfort with attaching to the buildings. We don't know what the wind loads are gonna be yet. The condition of some of those buildings is not ideal, and honestly, I think the liability that if the city takes it or we take it or whoever's taking the liability, I think there's gonna be issues for years to come if we connect to those buildings, because every time somebody has a leak, that's gonna be the first thing they ask.
But also
I
the
see a
span
lot
of
of
the wires
issues.
too, the
Yeah.
cables,
Yeah, the
I mean, the cables, I think, is no problem. It's the connection that will fail if, and I think that's why we would have to do we'd have to bolt
Little
through
more
each
thought on-
building.
yeah.
It's just, the further we get down this road, the more complicated it gets,
Yeah.
and for us, this has simplified everything. So I think, I have a lot less concern with this, and the building owners, the only concern they shared was light shining into their windows. That was the only thing anyone was concerned about, and with this, we've kind of removed that issue as well, because now we're 8 to 10 feet off the building, so it's, yeah.
Okay, any other,
I think it's great to bring life and vitality to the downtown.
yeah,
Anything that can do that is a gift.
Mhm.
I also feel for you in terms of the fact that it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I don't know if East Van Row said God is in the details. So
Yes.
it's going to be the details that will make this, successful, and I'm sure
Yeah.
your creativity will make that happen.
any other questions, concerns?
Kudos for you for identifying.
Good luck.
We have a street like this in Newfoundland called George Street, and it's
Yes.
quite a success.
I think it's lit up differently though.
Depends on what hour.
The lights never go up.
Depends on what hour, or what
I
time of
have been
morning.
there, and it definitely is.
Kenny's been there.
There's more than just the buildings lit up. Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anything else, Alex? No? Good, okay. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Kenny. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon. Enjoy. So you're gonna call Mr. McCarthy? Right on, brother.
Big McCurley.
What are you doing?
Backpacking again.
Yeah, this year.